Okay, so I'm going to hand you over to Patrick and we can go from there.
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, morning, gents. Patrick Thorp. I've been working with startups, both founding them and helping them for the last decade or so ago. And so, the next 25 minutes or so, want to talk about what I've learned over that last decade and calling it the Founders Growth Framework. So, you'll know the phrase building the plane while flying it. So, I imagine all of you know the feeling, kind of you're moving very quickly, making decisions with incomplete information, starting fires, but also putting them out, and wondering if you're focusing on the right things. So today I wanted to share a framework that can help you build a bit more intentionally, even when you're moving very, very quickly. So as I mentioned, I've consulted with several startups. I noticed something pretty interesting. So the ones that scale successfully aren't necessarily the ones with the best initial idea or the most funding, but the ones that get the fundamentals right early on. So they'll build, I'll call from here, the four pillars of success. So over the next 25 minutes, we'll have a bit of a conversation about that. I'll share some frameworks. At the end, there's a tool that I'll leave you with that you can use immediately. All right. So here's what I see happening. Most founders are incredibly good at the vision stuff, the big picture, product innovation, market opportunity, but they often struggle with the operational foundations. So the things that actually enable the scale. So the product can be the best in the world, but if you can't acquire customers consistently or hire the right people, kind of know what you're looking for, or ultimately deliver predictable revenue, then you'll hit a ceiling relatively quickly. So I want to introduce you to what I call the four pillars framework. So think of these as the load bearing walls of your startup. So number one is proposition. So this is about market positioning and value creation. The second is people. So think about this as building your revenue team, but actually your sort of startup team. The third one is operations. So establishing legal and business frameworks, and there's a few ideas I've got there. And the fourth one is processes. So it's all about optimizing your customer life cycle. And I'll really sort of focus in um, on process around sort of generating revenue as opposed to some of the other multiple processes that exist in other departments and things like that. So have a little think. Sort of which out of these four do you think startups get the most wrong frequently? So it's not a trick question. It's more to get you thinking in these ways because the root cause of any startup issue can be refined down to one of these four root causes. And this is what we want to do. Diagnose the cause and not the symptom. All right. So jumping in, pillar one, proposition. It seems a relatively obvious one. You have a product, it's for, but here's what I see constantly. Founders who can pitch their vision beautifully, but struggle to articulate their value in a way that makes someone pull out the credit card or the order form. So I imagine most of you have heard the advice focusing on a niche. But here's the thing, a lot of founders that I've worked with, they're focused or they think they're focused when they're actually too broad. For example, when you say my products for small businesses, that's not a target market. When you say my product is for SaaS companies with 10 to 50 employees in the healthcare space who are struggling with compliance reporting, that's niching down. All right, especially in the early days, that's what you want to do. And the second piece is the value articulation. So think about your last sales conversation. So could you quantify the value that you deliver? So not just features, benefits, but actual quantifiable value. So because if you can't do that, it's unlikely that your prospects can't either. And to help think about this, businesses buy, I think, for one of four or more of these four reasons: revenue generation, time save, operational efficiency, or compliance requirement. So if your product can hit one or more of those four reasons, then you can start to think about the value that it articulates. Word of caution, if your product's lever of being able to generate revenue, generate value is revenue generation. Be a bit cautious on that one because that's a lagging metric. All right. The time saved, the operational efficiency, or a compliance requirement, or government government reason, they're a bit more immediate. But just thinking in those terms, it will really help you kind of hone in on the value that you believe that the product actually demonstrates and delivers. Okay. And then the sort of the next bit to that is pricing. So I really get the sense that a lot of businesses underprice themselves. So it's not just about revenue, it's about positioning. So your price tells the market what category you're in. So if you're priced like a commodity, you'll be treated like one. So pricing in itself is a massive topic, and I hope, um, Gary, maybe between you and Ollie, you can get like a pricing expert on here because that's a big part. And I don't have time to address pricing properly, but I can't remember where I saw it, but there was a statistic like on average, startups spend only 6 hours in total thinking about pricing and then not revisiting it. And there's so many different ways that you can do it, and I think it's really worth digging into that topic on a separate kind of conversation. All right. So that's proposition, pillar one. Pillar two, people. So I think this is where I see the most pain. Let's say you've got product market fit, you're getting traction, and suddenly you need to hire, having done the sales yourself. So stop here for a moment. I want to spend some time on this because you, as the founder, have to sell. And I would say up to the first 10 deals because you need to know the process that you went through to document it and really to iterate on it. Because if you haven't done it, hiring a salesman or and then bringing them in and calling them the VP of sales or something like that when nothing is there, they are not going to be a silver bullet. There is no such thing. It's such a common mistake that I see. Founders have this great product. They bring someone else in. Nothing is prepared, and they expect that the salesman or the first hire to do everything for them, and it fails. It's a really costly mistake. So let's assume that you guys haven't done that. You've done the first deals yourself. Kind of what happens then? You hire pretty fast because you need bodies, and then you spend the next 6 months managing performance issues. So the first mistake here, it's not defining roles clearly. So I'm not talking about job descriptions. I'm talking about role scorecards. I'm talking about being able to articulate what success looks like in this role. If you were to hire this person in today, in 6 months, where would you like them to be? What would you have liked them to have achieved? What are the key metrics? What are the deal breakers? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. It's a really famous book by John Dewar called "If You Can't," it's something like that. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. I forget the actual title, but that's where it sort of come from. So you got the being very clear in what the expectations are for the role, and attached to that is sales enablement. So there might be some people on the call here who have hired salespeople and hoping they're just going to figure it out. So really, your sales team is only good as the assistant you give them. So from my work, for example, I've been a fractional chief revenue officer for multiple companies. And a lot of my work is actually developing the systems, the scripts, the objection handling, the processes, all from scratch because I've done it a lot. Um, I'm good at it, but only because I've bumped my head along the way for a long, long time and got the battle scars to prove it. So I think having a team in place, they also need all of the plumbing and infrastructure, the scaffolding around them, because you can't just hire great people and expect great results without great systems. And the final piece on the people part, on the people pillar, is onboarding. So quite a lot of startups have this issue of what I would call like a sink or swim onboarding. So day one being here's your laptop, here's your login, good luck. But the companies that scale have systematic onboarding. They might have 30, 60, 90-day plans, things like that. Having those kind of mapped out, certainly within the first 30 days, the first 4 weeks, makes a big, big difference. So it's really worth sort of thinking about that. So that's the people, that's second pillar. Third pillar, operations. So I would say it's the sort of the least sexy one, but it's the one that will save you the most headaches later. And this is about getting your legal and business frameworks right. So there's probably a certain amount of understanding about this. I don't know where everybody is in terms of if they're thinking about starting a business, if they've already done it, things like that. So there's quite a few different docs that need to be created. But if you haven't done a founders agreement and there's two or more of you, absolutely look at that. And the other things that you need from a sales and revenue perspective, first is going to be an NDA, and the two next ones are terms and conditions and an order form. So, what I would recommend is having your terms and conditions as standard on your website and the order form, i.e., when somebody actually wants to buy your stuff and go, hey, Patrick, I want a piece of this sort of software, the thing that you actually send them to sign, that's called the order form. That's the thing that changes. Terms and conditions are static. Order form is the thing that changes because that's about 2 pages usually, whereas T's and C's can be about 10. The reason why you do it like that is because if you don't, every single business that you enter into any financial transaction with, you will have to change your terms and conditions for every single business. And then it becomes very, very difficult to remember who has agreed what, especially when you go in with larger businesses. All right. I've had this with a recent company who are an HR tech business, and every single sales transaction they did, they had to use an external contract lawyer when businesses were coming back and redlining a few things, and it just became incredibly expensive. Changing this up made a massive difference. And if anyone interested or needing this, I'm not a lawyer at all, and by any description, but there's a chap in my network who's helped me loads, and he's specifically in the startup business as a lawyer and kind of can help you draft all these kind of things. So well worth talking to if you need to. So that's on the
Patrick,
kind of
can I just
contracts and
ask a
agreements.
quick question? Is that
Sorry,
all
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Jump in, yeah,
Just on that,
yeah.
does that still apply then? Whether you have an app on the App Store and in Google Play, and what they're doing is they're basically downloading your app,
Hmm.
and as and when they want to go in and pay for the services within the platform,
Hmm.
obviously we've got our processes in place. Are
Yeah.
you saying that they need um I need to put an order form in for every single person who downloads our platform?
So that it sounds like you've got what's more like a direct to consumer model because it's app based. This is more
It's
business
yeah,
to
it's app
business.
based.
Yeah, yeah. So this is I'm talking. I should have clarified that. This is more business to business transactions.
Right,
So
okay.
yeah. So a
Yeah.
direct to consumer is
Okay.
slightly different.
I thought that might be the
Yeah,
case.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. No, it's good. Yeah,
Thanks.
good call out that one. Um, all right, so that's it, sort of contracts and agreements. Second piece is metrics. So I talked about what gets measured gets managed, but here's the thing. I think a lot of founders are measuring vanity metrics. So I would recommend identifying 3 to 5 metrics that actually drive your business and then build the systems to track them consistently. So to give you some examples, clearly revenue is one, but as I said earlier, it's a bit of a lagging one. So I suggest completed conversations with your market. All right. Meetings attended, deals created, deals won. All right. So this is what's called the maths of sales and being able to re-engineer your number. For example, if you say we want to be at £1 million ARR at the end of the year, something like that, or in 12 months' time, it's being able to reverse engineer that number, understanding, well, if we want to get £1 million closed, how many deals do we need to win? How many do we need to originate? How many conversations do we need to have, etc., etc. All right, having that idea and focusing on those means that you're going to be managing signals and not noise. So again, happy to talk to anyone about this a bit later on, But once you've chosen the metrics, keep to those metrics week over week. Don't change the focus. Don't suddenly talk from revenue and sales conversations one week and then start talking about cost per lead, cost of acquisition, and all that sort of stuff the next week, because you'll lose focus really, really quickly. Okay. So, final bit on the operation side of things, talking about negotiation. So you'll always need to negotiate. And with customers, with vendors, with investors, with employees, but most founders wing this one. And a word on this one, there are three levers to negotiate, which is scope, terms, and price in that order. And if someone is negotiating with you, remember this is a two-way street. So using the phrase, I can agree to that if you can agree to this, that will be something that you'll use time and time again, rather than just being the small business that says yes to everything if someone wants to buy. There needs to be some give and take, or a quid pro quo. So a great book on this, on negotiation specifically, is called Nine Secrets to Win Deals and Influence Stakeholders. Nine Secrets to Win Deals and Influence Stakeholders, by a Canadian chap called Mark Raffin, which is Raffan for November. It's specifically for B2B, and he was an ex head of procurement. Really, really interesting perspective on that one. So that's the ops side of things. And then the fourth and final pillar is processes. And I'm going to focus more on specifically customer life cycle. You can have great positioning, great people, that kind of thing, but the customer journey is broken. None of it really matters. So I'm going to focus on two major processes in a business. First is lead management. All right. So a lead in business to business sales is a person. And so how I think about this is putting your leads into one of four different buckets. Someone who's uncontacted, someone who you are working, as in you've tried to get hold of them, you haven't yet spoken to, someone who is what I would call activated, which is someone that you spoke to. They may be interested in what you're selling. It might not be the right time, but you've had a conversation with them. Someone that is booked, i.e., you've got a meeting coming up. And then the fifth one, I would say, would be nurture, as in the person you spoke to, not the right time, call me back in 6 months, that kind of thing. So uncontacted, working, activated, booked, and nurture. And what your process is moving your leads, your people, from uncontacted through those buckets. And then you start to take that systematic approach to what we call top of funnel. Okay, you might be familiar with that phrase. So lead management, big process. Second big process, deal management. So where a lead is a person, a deal is a company. You can have multiple leads associated to one deal. So do you have defined stages? So deal management, your sales process. For a deal to be in stage one, let's call it sales qualified deal, what criteria are you measuring this against consistently? So you know your pipeline has only qualified deals in it. So depending on your product, it might be a 3-stage process, 4-stage, 5-stage, and the stages will become clear the more you do it. But word of caution here, you might have seen some sales processes have a particular stage called discovery. And I would avoid doing that, only because if you think discovery is a specific stage, it confirms in your mind that it's a static thing, whereas discovery should be happening across the entire sales process, because every time you speak to someone and moving a deal forward, you're likely going to be discovering more things. So try and avoid calling one of your sales stages the discovery stage, because it means that once you've done that, you forget to do it other times. It's again a sort of a root cause of quite a few problems. And then finally is exit criteria. So this means what indicators or actions needed to have been taken or need to have been taken for a deal to get into the next stage. That's what we call exit criteria. So if we move from stage one to stage two, what needs to happen in stage one to then be able to move it through to stage two? So think about these. So on average, how long does it take to find the lead and originate a deal? How much do people buy for on average? How many of these deals do you close? How many opportunities do you have in pipe every cycle? How long does it take people to buy? The reason I'm saying these is because your average contract value, or ACV, might be something you're familiar with, times your close rate. It could be 10%, 25%, 50%, number of opportunities, divided by the sales cycle duration, so time taken in days. That is the calculation to produce what's called your sales velocity, or how much revenue is flowing through your business on a daily basis. So to repeat that again, it's the ACV times the close rate times the number of opportunities divided by the sales cycle duration, the time. That's your sales velocity. It's a key metric for any investor. Okay. So bring this together. I mean, here's the thing about these four pillars. They build on each other. So you can't hire great people if you don't have a clear proposition. You can't build great processes if you don't have the right people, and you can't scale ops if your processes are broken. So here's what I'd like you guys to do. For each of these four areas, ask yourself these three questions. How successful are we in this area? Have we reached our full potential here? And what critical pieces are we missing? So I know there's a lot to remember. So that's why I've created something for you. I'll try and drop it in the chat, or I'll send it so you can get onto your WhatsApp group. So it's a one-page framework that breaks all of these down into an actionable kind of checklist, so you can use it to assess where you are today and really what to focus on next. So what we're looking for here isn't perfection. It's about having the right foundations to start scaling rapidly, especially when the opportunity strikes. Because not everybody's going to get things right from day one, but it's really being able to understand these are my focused areas. These are the ones that build the systems that let me iterate on, and this is how we're going to improve quickly. And to steal that phrase from think it was Dave Brailsford, the ex-head of GB Cycling, was talking about the 1%. So every day we're sort of doing, 1% improvements. That's really the kind of philosophy that we're buying into here. So take this framework, use it to assess your current state, and then pick one area to focus on over the next 90 days. So don't try to fix everything at once. Pick one pillar, make progress there, then move on to the next. So in summary, four pillars: proposition, people, ops, process, quite a few things in there. Pick one of them, make meaningful progress on there, then move on to the next. If you're doing four over the year, you're going to get pretty close. All right. So yeah, Gary, for me, that was it. I know a bit of a whistle stop, rattled through quite a few things there. But yeah, hopefully that was useful.
Yeah, no, that was great, Patrick. Does anyone have any questions for Patrick?
No questions from me. I'm just making me feel like quite inadequate in all four areas there. Should be doing a lot more in all of these things. So really interesting stuff. Really interesting stuff.
No problem. Well, as I said, I'll dish the framework out, and then it will all sort of come together. It's a bit of information overload, I think, for a Friday morning, really. But I'll spin you guys the stuff that you need.
Patrick, I've got one question if no one else
Sure.
has, and maybe it'll
Yeah.
lead on to others. But
Yeah.
oh, and Neil's just put his hand up, so that's cool as well.
Yeah.
Um, Looking at this, do you have to be a certain mindset to follow these pillars? And what I mean by that is, I would say I'm more of a creative type, and stuff
Right.
like this. I'm thinking, oh, you know what? It's too much going on, and so is
Yeah.
this more down to the COO or more the operational side to look into this stuff, or should it be from top down? I don't know. Just an opinion on that.
Yeah. So I believe that people's brains are wired differently. And so therefore having a team around you is important. So I'm kind of the opposite to you, Gary. I'm not that creative. I'm much more, as you can see, sort of framework orientated. And if things can't fit in a framework, I get a little bit anxious. So I think it would be down if you had a team, sort of the more operational focused kind of person, if you have that luxury. If not, the key thing I would say out of any of them is if you can do the sales bit yourself and documenting that, that is going to be a huge asset. Everything else will kind of fall into place. Often, if the sales stuff's working, revenue's coming through the door, other things, start to fall in place. So yeah, it sounds like a bit of a political kind of woolly answer, but I suppose, it's
And
probably the
no,
best I
I
can
think I
give
think
at the
that's a
moment.
I think that's a really good answer. Just the
Yeah.
experience from when I was at Halo and we used to go out and recruit drivers and anything we did, I always made sure that I did it first and was involved in that process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one is it helps when you're telling people what you want them to do, you've actually been there and done it yourself. And
Hmm.
also I think definitely with AI now helping you construct stuff everything that's in your brain you can sort of push out and push it to others a lot more easier. So I think
Yeah.
that process will be a lot better going forward as well.
Yeah.
Totally agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Neil, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. And you kind of set me up for what I'm kind of about to say in the people's brains work differently and there's
Yeah.
frameworks because I am a creative person and
Yeah.
and I think I was I was listening for words that I didn't hear at certain points, which I think are valuable and increasingly valuable to founders
Okay.
because businesses need to have a sense of purpose. So I was looking for purpose. There was kind of like proposition. The
Yeah.
proposition is an outward activity. What's my proposition? As opposed to why am I doing it? And do I
Okay.
believe in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, then the second one was around value because
Hmm.
there are different types of value of financial, what it costs, but
Yeah.
then there is value to the customer
Hmm.
and also does it actually have value, which leans back into purpose. So rather than a direct question, I think I was just I get slightly apprehensive for founders that this is amazingly valuable and does all the stuff that my brain doesn't do, which is great.
Okay.
But I worry that founders think I can do these pragmatic things and it will work
Okay.
when they don't have the other bit, when they don't have a sense of purpose, when they don't, oh, that was another word that was missing, culture. Because the employees, as you were talking about it, or the team, they almost felt like plugs that you were, when I was listening for, they didn't feel like people as
Okay.
you were describing them. They felt like, bits that you were slotting in, like bits of Lego,
Okay. Yeah.
if you know what I mean. And I was
Yeah.
looking for that. Oh, and then the final one, it's marginal gains for David Bransford.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think it sounds like you would subscribe to the Simon Sinek start with why, the golden circles, right? And then we go outwards.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, completely agree. And yeah, why you're doing something would absolutely fit in the proposition, and that's why I think that the founder is always going to be the best salesperson at any company because they're the ones that can articulate this is why I'm doing something. So absolutely right. Um, and on the people side, yeah, that is it's a good observation. There has been times when I have, to my detriment, tried to um, put put a framework around things that are difficult to put frameworks around. It's probably again, it's just how my brain works, and so that's why I need. I don't know if you guys have ever come across the Chinese elements test. It's a bit like a disc kind of profile type thing, but it looks at whether you're more kind of water, earth, metal, wood, and fire or something like that. And when I started a business, I was very, very high in metal, which means that you're very, yeah, very process orientated. And the other chap that I was founded a business with, he was very high in fire, so entrepreneurial, creative spirit, and crap at the operational stuff. So together we worked very well. So Gary, perhaps to your point, that we worked very well. Like I couldn't operate like he did because it caused me anxiety, and he felt that he was a little bit shackled with some of the process that I kind of brought in. Yeah, that sort of kind of combination. Yeah, good points. Now I know there wasn't a specific question, but a good sort of conversation nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that's really good as well because obviously it's a bit similar to color charts, but
Yeah,
I've not heard of that one, the Chinese one. So
Chinese elements test. Yeah, yeah. It's a free test online. I'm sure it is. I mean, yeah, similar to Myers-Briggs, DISC, all that sort of stuff. It's nice. There's a book that goes with it as well. So it's yeah, one to look at. It's interesting.
just to say thanks a lot, Patrick, and have a great weekend. And we'll send out lots of love on LinkedIn and social media and stuff like that later on. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Gary. All right, guys. Have a good
Thanks,
weekend.
Thanks very
everyone.
much,
Have a
Patrick.
good
All right, cheers.
weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.